Good morning, everyone. Over the last couple of years, we've been talking a lot about vaccines, COVID vaccines, flu vaccines, all the vaccines that you need to help you stay healthy. So what exactly do they do and what don't they do? We're going to get some answers with our pediatrician, Dr. Keith Watson. He's joining us at the table this morning. Dr. Watson, great to have you back.
Great to be back, always.
A couple of weeks ago, several weeks ago, as we were leading into school starting, we talked about the different vaccines that are required and then some of the ones that are optional that you recommend just to try to stay healthy. So we thought, why not have a conversation about vaccines just in a very general sense, what they do and what they don't do. And one of the things that you try to always instill in us is that they don't keep you from getting anything for the most part.
Some vaccines do not. That's correct. Some do.
Some do.
Some do. Some don't.
Okay. Let's talk the flu vaccine, for instance. You encourage us every year to get ourselves and our children vaccinated.
Correct. And, you know, you can just kind of replace the word flu with COVID if we need to, because they're both respiratory viruses.
Okay.
And making vaccines against respiratory viruses can be difficult. The perfect vaccine protects you 100% against an illness with no side effects, and the immunity is lifelong.
Okay, that's a perfect vaccine.
That's a perfect vaccine.
Okay.
Some vaccines provide lifelong immunity. There are some of our childhood vaccines, measles and mumps and rubella, that provide that pretty much lifelong immunity.
Okay.
Side effects are minimal. A sore arm, a little low-grade.
That's most, anytime I get a shot, I have a sore arm.
A little low-grade fever here and there. Some vaccines, though, over time kind of lose their effect, and viruses, or excuse me, vaccines against those respiratory type of viruses do that. That's why you get a flu vaccine every year.
Every year. One of the things you talk about when we talk about flu vaccines is when is the best time to get the flu vaccine to provide yourself the most protection, right?
Right. The flu virus is a winter virus. So October through roughly February, March, you will still have a few cases during the summer, we do every year, but the peak are those months.
Right.
So getting your vaccine in September, October, and then it protects you through flu season. But again, respiratory viruses change every year. So the next year, the virus is a little bit different. The vaccine doesn't work quite as well, so you come out with the new vaccine. In much the same way you hear on the news now about the COVID vaccine.
Right, we talked about different strains, correct?
Correct. And the COVID of 2020, which was so severe and so damaging and very deadly as far as viruses go, is not the COVID that you have now. The 2022 COVID still makes people sick, still makes them feel very bad, almost a flu-like illness. It's not as lethal, which is wonderful.
Yes.
But the 2020 COVID vaccine does not work as well as
the newer ones.
As a newer vaccine will. And so when you hear about getting your COVID vaccine or having to get another vaccine, it's not because the vaccine doesn't work. It's that the virus changes. And so are we heading into a period in our lives where a COVID vaccine may be an every year thing like the flu vaccine? It's very possible.
And the thing about the COVID or COVID in general right now is, unlike the flu, there's sort of a season for the flu. There's really no season that we can detect, I don't think, right now for COVID. It's kind of year-round.
At this point, it appears to be year-round. And the vaccine right now lasts a few months. Can they make the vaccine better to last a year so that we have a yearly COVID vaccine? You would think science can do that in the near future. Maybe not.
In these last 30 seconds, to be clear, so getting the COVID vaccine, getting the flu vaccine does not keep you from getting the viruses, but it could greatly reduce your chances of having to be hospitalized from it or worse.
That's exactly what it does. You get your vaccine, you could still catch the flu or COVID. You don't get as sick. You don't get in the hospital, and you get well quicker.
All right. That is the takeaway from that. Appreciate you as always, Dr. Watson.
You're very welcome.
Thanks so much. All right, when we come back, a look at who can get help paying for storm-safe rooms. We'll have that when Mid-Morning returns. All right, we're back, everyone. It has happened before, and more than likely, it will happen again. Severe weather in some areas means storms and flooding. WCBI News Director Joey Barnes talked with Mallory White with the Mississippi Emergency Management Agency about how MEMA can help people living in Clay, Lowndes, and Monroe counties feel safer. And he asked if there is more financial help to come. Take a listen.
one thing, Mallory, that is we can talk about is why this program with the storm shelters and the reimbursement is so very important, especially in Mississippi, where we see all kinds of weather and especially a large number of tornadoes.
This is probably one of the biggest questions we get following a disaster is where is the assistance for a storm shelter, a safe room that I can build myself? Where is that assistance? And so we have been able to utilize mitigation funds from the backwater flooding / tornado disaster that happened. And so I think one of the big questions we get, I know we are getting it right now on social media, why not my county? Why just those 8 counties? And it is because those 8 counties were declared for individual assistance during the backwater flooding. The reason this money is available is because a disaster happened. And so we got permission to use this money for individual safe rooms. Typically after a disaster, you know this, typically after a disaster, these mitigation funds are utilized by counties and cities. We're actually taking it and now making it available for the individuals. And I want people to understand, and I want to say this as clearly as possible, this is only the beginning of the individual safe room program. We are hoping to roll this out statewide. It's just going to take some time, and it's probably going to take different funding from another disaster to do that.
Yes, sadly, it does take a disaster to get this kind of help. A couple of things about the program that I think that are important for people to realize. A, it's a reimbursement. Yeah. B, there's only so much money to go around, so you better start applying.
Exactly. And it is first come, first serve. This program is for those eligible in those 8 counties, especially right now. As about 10 o'clock this morning, we already had over 100 applications. And so we have $2.5 million to build at least 600 safe rooms, maybe a little bit more, and that's it. But like I said earlier, this is just the beginning. We'll roll over to the next disaster after that and open the safe room program up for those counties impacted by that disaster. However, I will tell you this. If we do not use all $2.5 million in those 8 counties, we will then take that grant money and open it up to the counties that got public assistance during the backwater flooding. If there is still money left over after that, we will then open it up statewide for people to apply for this. And you are correct. This is a reimbursement program, and that is something people need to understand. MEMA is not coming out and building this safe room program or building a safe room for you. We're not doing that. We need you to show us the documentation that you have built this. Keep all of your receipts, documentation, your certifications, keep all of that. You have to turn it into MEMA before we can even send you a check. And this is going to be a lengthy process. So once we get the applications in, we then have to send them to FEMA to get their approval on it. And FEMA has 90 days to do that. And so once they approve it, we give folks the approval, then you have the green light to break ground, install your safe room or build it, whichever one you would rather do. Some people like the pre-installed, it can be a little bit cheaper. So then you have 60 days to build your safe room. Then you have to show us the completion of the safe room. You have to show us all of your receipts, all the documentation. It's kind of how our public assistance program works. You do all the work, then you turn in the receipts to us, and then we'll give you a check. And so if you build a safe room for $2,000, you will only get up to 75% of that project. If you build a safe room for $50,000, you will only be able to get up to $3,500. So there is a cutoff as to how much somebody can get. The max is $3,500.
And Mallory, talk about why this is so important. Y'all at MEMA have seen that safe rooms save lives.
Yes. I think, Joey, if you remember back, I think it was during the Easter tornadoes of 2020, and we all saw the brick safe room in someone's house, and that ended up saving lives of a family. A safe room is crucial to have. Now, There are communities that have community safe rooms, and we do encourage people to use those as well. But if people can have it in the convenience of their own home and maybe build it to the specifications that they need for their family, what if someone has access and functional needs? Those types of things. Safe rooms save lives. And that's why we were so passionate about relaunching this program, because we closed it back in 2012. It was due to a lack of funding. But unfortunately, fortunately, we've had a lot of disasters that have now opened up this mitigation funding for us. So it's a catch. Someone's home had to be destroyed for us to get this type of funding available now for us to do this. And so in between these years, this decade, we've been using mitigation funds. Counties and cities have been applying for it to go to generators and community safe rooms. But we thought it was time to let's go ahead and bring this individual safe room program back. And we started with these 8 counties initially, but like I said, it's just the beginning of this. We plan to one day roll it out statewide if we can. And if it's not using the backwater flooding grant, disaster grant, we hope to move on to the next disaster that we had and utilize those mitigation funds as well.
All right. Thanks so much, Mallory. I really appreciate you taking the time out to talk with us and talk to our viewers about this very, very important program. And really, like you say, a rare opportunity to be reimbursed for most of your costs for a safe room in Clay, Lowndes, and Monroe counties in our viewing areas. Thanks so much.
All right, important information there. Coming up a little later, what you always thought you knew about your barber is true. Good listener. That's ahead on Mid-Morning. All right, welcome back. Every child feels differently about going back to school. Some may be excited, others nervous. Anxiety in children may not look the same as it does in adults. Mandy Gaither has the signs to look out for and ways to help your child get ready to go back to school.
It's that time of year again. Heading back to the classroom may bring up a lot of different feelings.
Even if your kid is excited about going back to school, it's okay and completely normal if all of a sudden they start to feel anxiety.
Therapist Jody Baumstein says back to school anxiety can look different in every child, but some common signs to look out for are frequent worrying about school, trouble concentrating, frequent headaches or stomach aches with no known medical cause, changes in eating or sleeping habits, clinginess to caregivers, changes in mood, sweating, shaking, or fast breathing when thinking about school, and not taking part in activities they normally enjoy.
Anxiety can come from fear of the unknown. So for some kids, what's going to be most helpful is just really familiarizing them with certain things related to going to school.
Parents can help by going to the Meet the Teacher night or visiting the school before the first day. Drive the bus route or drop-off route with your child so they know what to expect. Encourage your child to practice with things they'll be using on their own, like lunch containers or backpacks, and meet up with other kids who go to the school so there are familiar faces.
Anything you can do to prepare ahead of time is going to put their mind at ease and make them a little more comfortable on day one.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
And feelings about school may change day to day, so the therapist says it's important to set a regular routine where parents check in with children and ask those open-ended questions to see how they are feeling. All right, some of the state's barbers and stylists are brushing up on a new type of training, but this doesn't have anything to do with fades or braids. As Courtney Ann Jackson explains, they're learning how they could help bridge the gap with mental health care.
The barbershop chair becomes the equivalent of a therapist couch for many men in the Black community.
We do have a lot of clients that come in and need just a conversation. It takes me back to last week. We had a one that came in and he was actually saying that he was on the verge of committing suicide. He called us back the next day and said that he was glad we came in and talked to him the way we did.
The Confess Project knows those kinds of stories are happening across the country.
Because at the end of the day, guys, like I said, they listen to y'all. Because y'all know everybody. You can give advice, but you can give guidance as well.
The Jackson Heart Study linked up with the Confess Project for this, but they've partnered with barbers before for hypertension screenings. That same model is being used for the mental health support. The presentation included data about how the Black community is less likely to get a diagnosis and treatment for mental health issues. That part isn't a surprise to the barbers.
A lot of times you understand the fact that you're not a counselor. I'm not licensed to do certain things, but you also have to wrestle with the thing that the obvious is where you see the benefit in the conversations that you have with these people.
The 4 principles that we teach on: active listening, positive communication, validation, and reducing the stigma, because at the end of the day, those barbers are essential and very important to the community.
But the missing link is sometimes what to do after they realize there's a need. Now they'll be able to provide clients with specific resources.
If you do not offer the resources along with the education, you're missing half of the boat.
Courtney Ann Jackson, WCBI News.
All right, coming up, conversation with Leanne Rhymes. That is next on Mid-Morning. Blue was the song that turned 13-year-old Leanne Rhymes into a sensation. 26 years later, Jamie Yuccas joined the Mississippi native in a Los Angeles recording studio to talk about her career.
My baby is rolling thunder.
Leanne Rhymes has been singing since she was a toddler.
His love is like a long hot summer.
Born in Mississippi and raised in Texas, she's been performing since the age of 5.
We can believe that we are great. Like, there's no shame in that.
I liked it.
I know for so long, especially being in this business, it's like you have to be humble. And I'm like, I'm freaking humble. I'm humbled to everything that gets to come through me. And at the same time, like, I know what I can do.
Leanne was barely a teenager when she recorded Blue. A rising star, Rhymes displayed charm and confidence as she chased her dream.
To be known as a 14-year-old singing sensation, as they're calling me, I don't really want to be known as that. I want to be known as an artist, because one day I'm not going to be 14, and hopefully, you know, my music will be good enough to stand on its own.
The dress Rhymes wore when she became both the youngest and first country singer to win Best New Artist back in 1997 is now part of the Power of Women in Country Music exhibit at the Grammy Museum in Los Angeles. Her memories of the night include being sick with a high fever.
I remember my publicist and I walked outside. I was standing in the rain waiting for my car. I was like, I bet Whitney Houston doesn't wait for her car in the rain. That's when I said.
That's so 14
that was such a 14-year-old smartass. It was just like, wait, what? How do I leave you?
Rhymes took the stage at the museum to celebrate trailblazers from Patsy Cline to Mickey Guyton.
Oh my God.
As we toured the exhibit, she spotted her idol, Dolly Parton, and her custom banjo.
Those are my favorite artists, the ones who know how to hurt you. They know how to hurt you in the best way.
Why in the world did you hurt me?
But Rhymes says success so early in life contributed to her struggles with anxiety and depression as an adult. She's been open about it in an effort to end the shame surrounding mental health.
The one thing about me is I have a lot of grit and I have a lot of resilience. If I wasn't resilient, I wouldn't be here.
Why do you say that?
Oh, I mean, there's been many a time, like in my life, that I could have easily chosen a different way out or just not come back from where I was. But I have such a fight. That rebellion that has got me into trouble many times has also saved my life.
Truly saved your life?
Oh yeah, it truly saved my life many times.
Rhymes is sharing her spiritual journey on her upcoming album, God's Work. It's an emotional and empowering ride. Working with her longtime collaborator, Daryl Brown, and a diverse group of artists, this song is a rallying cry to protect the environment.
Music was an instant connection to all of creation. I'll cry talking about it because it is so powerful.
Your music has a lot of power.
It has a lot of power. It makes me cry. I think that's part of my gift, is being able to help people feel. I know for me, it's The things I can't say, I sing.
Didn't ever think that I could ever say I promise you, but now I do. Now I do.
Is that a conscious decision to bring in some of the diversity now into your music?
Yeah, I mean, I've always wanted to. Like, it takes everybody to raise a society that is well loved and well supported.
She brushes tears away while rehearsing Awakening. Like so many during the pandemic, Rhymes was feeling lonely and introspective. She found solace in the studio.
Are we really embodying the teachings that we say we are? We don't use our heart enough. We don't use our empathy enough. We're too scared to be hurt. I know I'm speaking from my own experience here, but I feel like a lot of people can relate.
To be vulnerable?
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, vulnerability is such a superpower. It's our greatest superpower, in my opinion.
Rhymes' current tour is aptly called The Story So Far. And the award-winning singer-songwriter will hit another milestone later this month.
Don't you feel like there is something freeing about entering this next decade?
Yes. I'm like, yes, 40. Like, I'm ready to mature. Growing up in this business in front of everyone, people have literally wanted to keep me a certain age forever. It's only in the past few years I feel like people have allowed me to grow into a woman. Also, I've allowed myself to grow into a woman.
How much a heart can hold.
Happily married to actor Eddie Cibrian for the past 11 years, she's finally comfortable sharing the song she wrote for their wedding and recorded for the album.
When you talk about love, and there's no way to get around being sappy sometimes.
Every time you put your hand in mine.
I've gone through a lot. I've lived a lot of life in 40 years. I'm ready for a calmer time.
I see how much a heart
Jamie Yukas, CBS News in Los Angeles.
can hold.
And we'll be right back to wrap things up. Stay with us. All right, be sure to stay connected with us. You can send us an email. We're on social media. We'll see you back here next time. Have a great day.